Hail, hail, the Celts are here, and what the hell do we care now, guys? We are ready to rock and roll. The boys are on their way back to paradise as champions. It's going to be our first game back at home since being officially crowned champions this year, sealing the 55th title and marching onwards and upwards towards a historic 9th treble. And we're off the back of a Brendan Rodgers press conference that, guys, has to be up there with one of the best press conferences we've had this season so far. All the questions were around the team, the squad, and any sort of implications of, what we've seen so far this season and what we might see in the coming weeks. Maybe adding to the shopping list for the summer, which obviously we've been covering extensively here on the channel. Fist bump to everyone that's been tuning into that content. Every Wednesday between 5 and 6, we drop out scouting video looking at different leagues and countries around European and world football for who the Hoops might be looking to bring in. I forget how many episodes we're into. It's maybe 7 or 8 or something like that. And we've almost got 100 players on our list, all sorts of shapes and sizes around European and world football. And we had some interesting comments from Brendan on all matters. And the transfer comments were particularly interesting. My ears did prick up, and we'll have some great stuff to reference either here live with you guys today or maybe in the coming episodes for that playlist out every Wednesday. But yeah, to everyone that is joining us live, of course, smash the like button. We're live on Facebook and YouTube. Just goes a long way supporting the content here. And maybe we'll find some more Jungle Gyms to come and join in the live chat and get ready for what is, the title party homecoming kind of thing we've got this weekend at Paradise with Celtic versus Hibs. But yeah, last week and some weeks we kind of watch along, go through the press conference. I already watched it, and like I've kind of said, like, watching it twice is a bit overkill for me. I don't mind maybe going back for a quote or whatever, but I'm not going to do that on this one today. But all the questions were fantastic. There's a lot to get out of it, to be honest with you, and that'll kind of help, I suppose, get us set for the match preview, because I've got the board up here now. Normally, when we do this, guys, sometimes it's just a little bit ceremonial, where we go through the squad and go, I wonder who's going to play in midfield, or etc. etc. So in any case, this week, but like, sincerely, who knows? Like, who really knows? Before we get into absolutely anything, I think just because of what was again confirmed in the press conference by Brendan in terms of Alistair Johnson being continued to be wrapped in cotton wool until after the St Mirren game, in preparation for the final. It seems like Carter Vickers is on the same regiment as well. And obviously, we know Jota's out for a long period of time. Kuhn-Butt is back in the picture. But anyway, to stay on point, I think Anthony Ralston is probably the only he's the only player I look at on this board and think he's definitely playing. So, bit of a change of fortunes quite quickly. The apple cart, not necessarily upset, but everything's been juggled around. Brendan was very, very vocal in the press conference around giving guys a shot who have earned it. Guys that deserve to play, guys that have been unlucky not to get more minutes, guys that are a part of the squad, really a big part of the reason the squad has been at the level it's been at. Because as you guys will know, you're only as good in some instances, in some cases, as your sparring partner, as it were. And the bigger the quality across the squad, the better training is, the more everyone gets out of the players, whether it be us as fans, the manager himself, of course, being in charge, and anything else that you want to throw in amongst that as well. So Ralston, I think, is definitely nailed. I think we can just put that out there. Ralston's going to play A-OK, no two problems at all. Now, with Carter Vickers being out, the natural assumption is, I think, Trusty and Scales come back into defence. We're maybe getting ahead of the goalkeeper thing, so we'll kind of circle back to that in a little second, right? But with all the chat about, earning the spot, earning the minutes, etc., it does make you think. Big Mike came in recently, and Rodgers is full of praise for all of the players, of course, right? But that maybe opens the door for there to be something a bit different here, because he has the right-sided centre-back backup, essentially. Dane Murray's out injured. Stephen Welsh is away on loan, of course. So I actually think the centre-back partnership could be absolutely anything. I think a lot of people expect Trusty to come back in because Scales wasn't overpowered in the derby. And it seemed anyway to be a little bit overpowered perhaps on the ball throughout the game. So I understand why there is maybe a bit of consensus there that Trusty certainly comes into the picture now in the absence of Carter Vickers, but I'm not as sure about it. Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure that's probably on point, but equally I wouldn't be surprised if Scales retained the spot and the Rocky just come in for Vickers rather than Trusty. That would be a really big statement, though, wouldn't it? Because of obviously Trusty, the season he's had, and the price tag, etc. And you don't need to cast your mind too far back to when Trusty and Scales was the default best centre back partnership, Atalanta away, and that kind of spell of the season back there. And they did exceptionally well together. They looked really good, and it's because they both have opposite strengths and weaknesses in some ways. So as a pair, they were quite effective. They have played together before. They're both left-footed, which is maybe the fly in the ointment around it, depending on how strict Rodgers wants to be around passing lanes that can be opened up. And that's the real reason you care about that symmetry between left foot and right foot centre back, is just the natural passing lanes with the outside of the foot, or that kind of cover the ball, that kind of thing. If that's vitally important, how you want to build up or not. Because if it's not vitally important, this the left centre back fight will be very interesting to see who does prevail if Naroki is chosen. So either way, the centre back, whoever does win the battle, as it were, to play, because it's really between the three of them. It's anyone's guess. I don't think any one of them is nailed on, especially with the way Brendan was talking. So it'll be really interesting to see how it goes. Now, number one, this is the first game at home being champions. I don't think that occasion will be lost on anyone. And number two, Hibs are a really good team. The manager won't want to lose, etc., etc. So I don't think it goes full pre-season mode, where we just play as you look across the board and think about the sentiments that Rodgers has had in the press conference that we're talking about already. This is going to be applied in a lot of different spots, So I don't think it's going to get to that nature of a completely unrecognizable team. I can envisage something like 3 or 4, let's just say, fringe kind of changes. And I think the bench as well, because there was a question around youth. And, Rodgers was like, yes, we're going to look at that. We're going to look at these youth guys, these fringe guys, and see what they're made of and whatever. And I think that means we're probably going to get the likes of Bonner, Turley, Ure, I'm not too sure you say his name, sorry, Kyle. And I think we're going to see maybe a couple of those guys maybe make the bench. And there might just be some notable absentees from the match day, perhaps, depending on how many of those people are selected to get the minutes, as it were. So centre back, I'm really got no idea where to rock with this one, to be quite honest with you. Anyone joining us in the live chat, of course, drop the fist bumps and let me know what your thoughts are between the centre backs. Based on what I think is going to happen, I don't think the Rocky's going to come back in. I think Scales will move to right centre back, like we've seen when these two played together with themselves anyway. And I think a big part of the reason for that is I think Sinisalo is going to keep the gloves for this one. I don't think Schmeichel is going to come back in. The midweek match we have is against Aberdeen, and that feels like much more of a Schmeichel return match. I think, given Sinisalo this game after the derby, Schmeichel's back in the squad. Rodgers almost said he wasn't available, but then said, no, he'll be available for the squad, and we're not sure if he's ready to start or not. So, it was very full of praise also for Sinisalo. So, I can't see... I think Sinisalo gets this game, essentially, is the way it kind of sounded and felt to me, certainly. Sinisalo also did the pre-match press conference. I'm pretty sure I've seen interview footage of him circulating around the timeline earlier. So I think Sinisalo's going to stay in goals. And I think because of that is why Naroki won't come in. I think you want to put Scales and Trusty in front of Sinisalo, because that's an actual growth project that we've got live in the squad right now. Rodgers was very open in saying that the plan for Sinisalo is to be Celtic number one. And had he not got these minutes that he's gained through Schmeichel's absence, they would have really had to look at what to do with him in the summer. And again, we've discussed that on the channel as well. Feel free to check out episode 1 of the Celtic Scouting Summer Transfer List series, or whatever it's called, because we go through the squad depth and the kind of the plan you would imagine for some of those guys. And we went through the goalkeeper one in quite good detail, I would like to say. So yeah, I think the centre back partnership and the goalkeeper are going to those decisions will make each other quite easy. Left back is a coin toss, a real coin toss. Schlupp has been out for a few games. Taylor's been in for a few games, and minus the derby. And the derby, it's funny, right? Because when Taylor was coming back into the team, and we could feel it coming, I think he came off the bench, hadn't he, before he started? But even that game, he came off the bench. We were here on the preview show talking about the benefit of bringing Taylor back in now because of the inverted fullback wildcard element, which against Rangers and against the better teams, you don't get to see as much of, because Taylor has an opponent to deal with that's quite formidable. Is that the case with Hibs? Maybe it's a yes and no because of form, and it depends how you see it, of course. But with Schlupp, I don't see there being a good reason to bring Schlupp back into the team. I'm still quite happy to give Taylor this match. It's the game we're bringing the title home, essentially. Taylor has been much more a part of this title win than Schlupp, for example. And I think that might make it a decision itself, as well. So that's kind of how I see the back four forming. But like I mentioned at the tip-off, the only person in the entire team that I am super confident is going to start this game is the Bricky, Anthony Ralston. There's a bunch of you watching on YouTube and on Facebook as well. So thanks to everyone tuning in live. Don't forget to hit the like button, of course, if you're enjoying the stream. If you're watching this after we've been live as well, of course, I'm sure you've probably hit the like button already. And McLaughlin P's get his back four. I think he's going to be Schlupp rather than the Taylor. So, like I say, I think they're all coin tosses. Let me know when you guys toss the coins. How does it land? How does it fall? For the defence especially. Now, the midfield is one of the more interesting ones, right? Because McGregor's got a lot of minutes in the legs. This feels like a game, if there is a lot of new faces to get minutes, it's kind of easy to imagine that McGregor wouldn't start this game. But again, similar to what I was just saying with Taylor, it is the title homecoming kind of situation. So I don't think you don't start the captain in this game. But it's the other spots in midfield, really, because Bernardo come off the bench in the derby, and Bernardo did exactly what Bernardo does. A strong 5-6 performance at his peak, that 7 kind of effort. And he's present, he's vibrant, he puts his foot in where it hurts, he makes the pass that's in front of him, he follows instructions, he does the best thing for the team, offensively and defensively. And Engels does that, but like we've seen in some of the bigger matches and whenever we've kind of had him under the microscope here on the channel, he can just kind of, and it's no from any lack of trying or anything, but he can just vanish in a match, like just nothing actually happens for him. If you wind back to the review of the match from last week, Bernardo did more, had more successful actions or more statistics in the derby match in his cameo appearance than Engels did from the start. So I think that tells you a little bit of what I mean by that. He's just hyperactive compared to Engels. Bernardo, he's always just, where he is on the pitch in the game. You're never looking for him. Where's Bernardo? He's always quite clear where he is. Engels, sometimes it's like, where did he go? Like, why can't we find him? Sort of thing. But when Brendan's talking about bringing players back in, it's really hard to not think about McKeown and Bernardo for this one, because McKeown hasn't started in a long time, and McKeown has been very comfortably relied upon by the manager to come in a variety of situations to either rotate the squad midweek to weekend or to cover for suspension, injury, that sort of thing. He's played in all three midfield positions this season at some point, maybe only for a short period of play, perhaps until another substitute happened later on, or even from the start. And it's clear to see that he, alongside kind of Greg Taylor again, to use him as another kind of similar, he's like a strong member of the changing room, in that sense. He's came in and he's added something to it. A former captain, of course, at his previous club, a boyhood Celtic fan. And, I can see McKeown maybe getting minutes in this one, significant minutes perhaps even. But I think a lot of people expect Bernardo to take the place of Engels in this one. And I could see it, right? But I think the only problem I've got with this, right, is number one, in the current kind of shape, if we can just move McKeown and Engels to the side for a second, is too defensive at home against Hibs. I don't see that being the way it goes. What I found really interesting in the derby when Bernardo did come on is there was long passages of play where he was the deeper of the three. And that's what we've been saying on the channel since we signed him permanently, really, that Bernardo is the most capable 6-6, to sit in front of the back four, to be close to the midfield playmakers and attack-based players, and just make sure it all knits together, tackle people, that take the ball off you, do all that kind of stuff, always be available for a pass and do the right thing by the team. So if Bernardo does start for Engels, I would fucking love to see this. Like, this would be brilliant. And this gives you a lot of options later on, if it's the manager, to bring Engels on at the 60th minute, because Engels is definitely going to feature. And also McKeown, give him significant minutes later on. And I think that gives the team nice balance of a different face coming in from the start, maybe a slight different tactical tweak, because, as I said, I had to say earlier on, this won't be pre-season vibes, because Rodgers was almost giving off pre-season vibes, in that sense of like, we're going to look at players, we're going to give guys a chance. There's guys that have been earning minutes but not been getting them, that kind of chat. So there's got to be some sort. It's not going to be McGregor, Hatate, and Engels. He won't copy-paste the midfield for this one off the back of those comments. And yeah, Bernardo feels the most likely. But yeah, that's just the only problem I have with it, is it feels a bit too defensive for Hibs at home, because as much as Hatate is probably going to be that press support, that more attacking midfielder, in recent weeks he's been much more of the box-to-box, water carrier, doing everything for everyone at all times kind of thing. So It will be interesting to see how that goes. Equally, Hatate could still do that sort of thing, and McKeown could start on this side of the pitch. And what we've often referred to on the channel is the 3 wee guy midfield. And this is something Rodgers has chosen to select 2 or 3 times this season at least, to good effect, because I think some of the better games we've seen is when we've had McKeown and Hatate playing together. Is this maybe a little bit too attacking for Hibs at home? I don't think so. Personally, it gives someone like McKeown, who I think when you hear the description from Rodgers in the press conference pre-match, could easily fit McKeown, no problem at all. Hatate is just, I just don't know why you wouldn't start him for this. I just don't see any reason for it. And almost similarly with McGregor. So I think there's probably not much of a case that Engels starts this one, or just on a lot of sentiment and kind of feeling and vibes. Everyone can just feel it, can't they? But I actually think it will be McKeown, Hatate, and McGregor. I think he'll go for the 3 wee guy midfield on this one. And interested to see what your guys' thoughts and feelings are on the midfield. Before I delete the midfielders, we'll catch up with the live chat because it's firing away now and see what you guys are thinking. David67's got a full team for us here, I think. Yeah. Strong front 3, and you think Hatate and Engels will drop out of the midfield. Interesting. And then I definitely think there'll be a 3-3 forward line swap. I could see that happening. You think someone like Turley could get us? See, McLaughlin P, I'm not too sure there would be that much. Let's see, I don't think there's full preseason vibes to be had here. Frame. Yeah, Frame's not a bad consideration, by the way, at left back. It's just kind of went quiet on him. He was kind of like a little bit of a buzz for a while, wasn't he? And it's just kind of faded away now, but very easily forgotten and probably wrongfully so. At fullback, by the way, the boy we've got, Donovan, I think he's like 17 or 18. I've seen him play in the Youth Champions League this season. He is a player. Like, he's really, really good. To look forward to seeing what he can offer the team in recent years. I'm actually a really big fan of like a lot of the B team players. It's just hard to know without being in the building what the levels are that are being produced and what's required in contrast to that, So that's the only thing we're really missing in a lot of this analysis. And thanks very much, Phil. I really appreciate that, mate. Thanks for joining us. For all the midfielders in SP, Engels is first for goals. Scottish Premier. First for goals and touches in the box, second for shots and attempted. He's been fine, hasn't he, Engels? But I think stats are his best friend, Engels. That's kind of maybe a little bit of his problem here, is he doesn't always pass the eye test, but what I think we've seen from Engels over the last, let's just call it 2 months, is being in this kind of zone here when we are coming out of the defensive third, and if the opposition gives us space, he's got a great range of passing. Like, seeing that he's played in like right back and stuff like that before, it gives me kind of like Beckham vibes. If you imagine Beckham playing right mid, especially in today's game, he'd probably be converted to centre back like he played later in his career. And I'm not saying the guy's Beckham or anything like that, right? But it feels like that sort of player where he's definitely missing a bit of X factor to be like a winger, but he's not really like not even a hard man. I think that's a terrible expression for what I'm trying to say, but like, guys in midfield that just get their hands dirty, and are just involved in the game all the time and are just, making, dictating play in terms of the tempo, the atmosphere, the expectations, the ferocity of it. Just not really that present in it. So it's a weird kind of spot for him in some ways, but I think he's got a lot better at being the deeper player. I think he's kind of struggled sometimes when he's had to be like directly do the O'Reilly job, because I think although he wants to be in the final third and he's good at it, he's just not really had huge success rates, and maybe that's just a teething thing. Maybe that's something he'll develop into. But although the stats are very good for him, because we do focus a lot down the right, especially this season, especially the second half of this season, so that Dyson can be cutting in. And when Taylor does play, of course, he's not holding any width for anyone, So we focus a lot on the right, and because Engels is often involved in these little plays like touches in the box and stuff like you're talking about, Engels is just always kind of here anyway. So a lot of those stats will be dead easy for him to gather. But I'm not taking anything away from him, but just as a wee kind of bit of flavour to the statistics, let's say. But yeah, I think it goes with the 3 wee guy midfield personally. And yeah, I just think that's the way it's going to go. I think Bernardo is get equally as big of a chance to start this one, and maybe even could start it. Imagine McGregor didn't start. I think the only thing that definitely keeps McGregor starting for me is that the title's coming home. The trophy's coming to Paradise this weekend. And for the most part, I think you're going to want guys that have contributed in it. And Engels has been a big contributor as well, don't get me wrong, as has Bernardo. I heard an interesting stat on Axom today. They were talking about how when Bernardo's been fit, there's only 3 games all season he had not featured, either from the bench or from the start, which is a very telling statistic of his value to the squad and how Rodgers sees him, etc. But like I say, this midfield, we get a good amount out of Hatate from that. McKeown's not started in ages, and the managers chose this midfield before in other situations when he had other options. So I think that's the move, personally. I feel sorry for Rio. He had the pen. Yeah, Rio's never had penalties, by the way. I remember. Do you not remember who was it that was taking penalties? Was it maybe Kyogo or something? But I remember there was a few times where Hatate like wanted the ball. Maybe even he won the penalty, and he's like, "No, I get to take this one because I won it." You know, like, do you remember that? And McGregor had to step in. It happened like twice over like say 4 penalties one year. And now Rio just doesn't go anywhere near it, kind of thing. But he's itching for pens. He is itching for them. You think Engels' development has been harmed because of, yeah. Well, I don't think harmed is the word, right? Because if you look at especially some of the cliches, the stereotypes around, in particular, Dutch and German youth development, is that players play in multiple positions in their formative years. Similar to Hatate, like when I first found Hatate, or when I first, seen him play, he was a forward, like an actual forward, line forward, for Kawasaki before playing centre mid and left back then after. So again, he's a guy that's, that's playing in different roles and stuff like that isn't necessarily a negative. What it maybe does hold back is like seeing like Yang, for example, right? Yang's main quality throughout this kind of formative part for him has always been putting people on the back foot, being direct, being brave, and kind of just going for it. And if he was asked, like, if we weren't such a dominant team, he wouldn't have as many opportunities to develop in that way. Because sometimes if we were like a mid-table team in a different league or whatever, sometimes we'd be using him and be like, Yang, today it's backs to the wall. You're doubling up with a fullback and you've got someone to defend and to worry, and it'd be a totally different experience for him. So in that case, maybe his finishing, his passing, his crossing, his dribbling doesn't develop at the same rate at a team like that than he does at a team like us, for example. And for Engels, yeah, there's maybe a bit of that being lost. At whatever his like top attribute, best strength is, his go-to thing, maybe there's a little bit of that sword doesn't get as sharp as it should because of the change of systems or whatever. But I don't think it ultimately is harming any of his progression. Far from it, I'd say probably. McGregor took the ball off Hatate and handed the ball to but there's been a few penalty taker changes over the 4 years Hatate's been here. It's happened more than once. McLaughlin P, massive fist bump for remembering that one and dropping it in. If anyone else knows the rest of them, or if you yourself, McLaughlin, let me know, obviously. But I would maybe even say, like, I didn't really remember one happened with Engels, so I would say there was 2 on top of that. So I think there maybe be 3 incidents, whatever one it should be. 3 of them. Yeah, it wasn't, but how many games would it have been? I don't know, but, he was a forward, he was very much a forward when he first got into the Kawasaki team. No mistake about it. And played in midfield and whatever, but like his best performances were at left back, and they went to win the league. They had all sorts of good stuff in that team, and he was quality. I thought he was going to play left back for us when we signed him. There's videos on the internet of when we signed him, me talking about how good a left back Hatate is going to be for us, and likening the impact he could have to, like, not obviously this different player type in terms of like height and breadth, I suppose, but like Bale, like peak left back Bale is what I thought we might have got from him, but he comes to us and he plays attacking midfield. Just like, okay, fair enough. But I know. Yeah. Maybe he caught one of my videos. I don't think it'd have been spoken about in the community too much beyond the fact of just it's on his player profile page or whatever, but I'd actually seen a fair bit of him. Hail Troops, happy Friday as well. Another I suppose another one that Greg Taylor has seen off. You're probably quite right there, River C as well. But yeah, personally, I'm going to say Bernardo retains the bench. Engels probably goes to the bench on this one. And McKeown, the 3-wee guy midfield, is what we get. Now, Brendan almost basically said, I think Kuhn's going to play this game because Kuhn was pictured in training with like some stitches. I think he went up for a header and get clattered. But he said he's got the warrior mentality or something like that because of the stitches, made a wee joke about it. So it feels like Kuhn is nailed on to play this one. So do we think about Yang on this side of the pitch? I'm going to say no. I think that means Yang's not in the picture. So it feels like Kuhn is almost certainly going to play this one. But with Dyson looking a bit leggy and a bit jet lagged, obviously, for the derby, we've not had any midweek game. Dyson is chasing so many accolades. I don't see it happening, but there is a bit of chat that Dyson maybe doesn't start this game and it could be Forrest or Yang. I personally just don't see it at all. I think it's going to be Dyson and Kuhn all day, every day. Now, Kenny came off the bench in the derby, looked pretty nippy, and you could tell like he wasn't completely match sharp, and things could have changed totally differently. A few sliding doors moments were definitely present in the last 20 minutes of the derby, let's say, of which Johnny Kenny, his outlook and his picture could be completely different as a result of that. Does he drop Adam Ida and start Johnny Kenny? Because again, for the same reason, the same language that we hear from Brendan that gives you the idea that the Rocky could play, I don't think he does. So who else could that point to? Yeah, McKeown could be a wee person that's carrying that sentiment from the manager in his answer. But he's always pretty much extra positive. Obviously, young Johnny Kenny's got great finishing and he's got great application and da 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 da. And I wouldn't be surprised if he did. Now, is he? Probably not. I think for this whole situation, the way the seasons went and the dynamics, interpersonal, public persona perceptions, and transfer fees and success this season, statistics in the end, when it's all said and done, it's got to be Ida that starts this, you feel, because it is Hibs. They're on an amazing run. The manager's the talk of the town at the moment, and they've given us a game every time we've played them. So Brendan doesn't want to lose matches. It's something that you need to always keep in mind with these situations is his win, draw, and loss record is his value in life, really. Like if Brendan Rodgers is no longer the Celtic manager, if he's lost 10 games or 20 games, makes a huge difference. Look to his time as Celtic manager, which is why his first stint was so incredible because it was invincible trebles and such. And it's obviously not quite been the case yet this time around. But that being said, that's the standard he's got in his head. And I don't think he's going to look at Hibs and go, let's just treat it like a game down the park and start half of these question marks. But I do think there's going to be significant minutes for almost everyone that we've kind of had on the periphery of the image here. Maybe not in defence, because I could see, like somebody mentioned it in the chat earlier, but you could have Forrest, Yang, and Kenny being the triple sub if you start with this, and you do that at 60 minutes, and then later in the match, the midfield maybe changes up. You bring Bernardo on, maybe even at half time. Could be Bernardo on for McGregor. We've seen that kind of thing happen before without it being a real slight on the players, just proper minute management, because we are playing Aberdeen midweek. And again, I think with that sort of thing going on, I don't think the Rocky comes into defence. I think it goes to Scales and Trusty. Bernardo said the McKeown for you, Brad lad. I can see it, man. There's a proper sentiment around it for sure. I just think it's too defensive for Hibs at home. It's kind of when I started with that one. Reckon Ida starts? Yeah. And Bernardo? Interesting. Yeah, I just think it's a bit too... But again, he's powerful, he's physical. Hibs are going to turn over the ball, and you need someone that can recover and defend. And McKeown is definitely, you would say, weaker at doing that than Bernardo. It's kind of Bernardo's bag, isn't it? So if he's paying a bit more respect to Hibs, it makes it an even more compelling case for Bernardo. Maybe I'm just being a wee bit optimistic or sentimental or whatever, but thinking we're getting, first game at home since officially unveiling the trophy. And with some of the games recently, St. Johnstone or whatever, Brendan doesn't want to lose games, I'm not keen on having them on the park together with the final on the horizon. Interesting. I think Dyson, you want him to score every goal he can because he's on for a legendary season, it must be said. And Adam Ida, so what are you thinking then? Start Dyson through the middle and not start Ida? That's an option as well. And then maybe start Forrest or Yang, probably Forrest on the left rather than Yang. But yeah, I just don't think, because Ida's the big money signing. He's been he splits opinion. It's probably the best way of putting it. I'm quite happy with him. I've got no issues or anything around him for the most part. And Maeda, yeah, he didn't go back to Japan this week, so I'm sure he'll be fine as well. And then get that 60-minute rotation pattern kind of done and dusted. Now, we're going to be taking on a Hibs team, like I mentioned, that are kind of talk of the town. Gray, the manager, is up for all the Manager of the Year awards and everything else that goes around at this time of the year. This is the projected 11 we've got from friend of the channel, McBride Ace. And as you can see, he's quite very much on the same page as me, that everything, and everyone, I suppose, that everything is quite a 50-50. Who really knows who the hell's going to start, except for Anthony Ralston. We all know he's definitely going to play, no two ways about it. But he's of a similar mind to a lot of you guys, where he's went with Bernardo to start in midfield, as well as maybe Naroki, maybe some of you guys are after. And yeah, no Maeda maybe getting a rest. I don't find that too likely. 50-50 Kenny and Ida. But if we look at the Hibs projected team, which is brought to you by Gisa Legend, a fantasy football expert, we see this is the predicted team we've got for Hibs. Now, I'll just go and fire that onto the board and we'll see how that will lay out against each other, because we have played a Hibs team that looked like this before, and I don't think a Leopard is going to change their spots on us this quickly. Now, the thing about these teams, right, is we kind of mentioned it before, but when Hibs did well against us, that was kind of the game plan that Neil McCann prepared for Rangers in the derby that followed quite soon thereafter. And we've seen it before with St Mirren a few years ago, and at the beginning of this season, the way Aberdeen got the draw against us, making that double sub at half-time and playing that real game of two-half approach. As you never rule out these teams coming up with a funky option, because there's some very good, well-built teams, some very well put-together coaches. And when you've got players with good enough technical ability and, physical attributes, and a scouting and a coaching department that have got their finger on the pulse, if it's their cup final, there is the chance they could have an extra, not edge, but dimension perhaps to their preparation. Oh, we've got both Caddens here for Hibs, left and right. And again, I've heard that the one that starts on the left is Nicky Cadden, the best crosser in the league, I hear people say on occasion. But they look to have Junior Hoylett, Boyle, and Kurichev. I can't ever say that guy's name, sorry. Kurichev. Starting as some sort of kind of front three little trident here. And we know that the front three actually get quite a lot of license to roam, which is why I do think, again, as well, Kurichev, I need to see how to spell that properly, sorry. No, it's all bleeped out there, sorry. So I need to go and find that on our wee page. 2 seconds, guys, and then we'll put up the Celtic versus the Hibs, how it will look and what we think the kind of patterns of play will be. Let me know your thoughts and feelings on what's the lad Triantis statistics like. McLaughlin P, the first episode of the Scout in Summer thing is we did on domestic players, and Triantis comes out super favorably, like super favorably. He is owned by Sunderland. His agent is talking about how he's really enjoyed everything that comes with being a Hibs player, pressure, expectation, being the main man. And if they qualify for Europe, I think they want to do a deal with Sunderland, probably going to the Premier League, and he's not going to be a Premier League player, to maybe keep him at Hibs. So if there is, anyway, check out episode 1 of that. And yeah, very good is probably the quick way of coming back to you on that one. Kurichevic. Oh, sugar. Don't know if this will fit. It's actually quite a lot of letters. Right, stop sharing, and then let's get the tactics board back up. Oh, it fits, I think, just about perfectly. Fantastic. So when they're playing in this type of shape, we've seen the Celtic Park before against this Hibs team that they don't. I wouldn't even really say they're that deep, by the way. I actually think they try and play a bit of an offside, but it feels like there's a lot of space in the pitch. And I think that's because one of the main things they do, like the strikers are both playing like a job and a half. Like their strikers, like Boyle is very much going to be in the face of these guys, as is this Kurevich. He loves to just go shoulder to shoulder with people, run channels. And Hoylett has that kind of top end experience and talent, you would say, but aging joints and legs and whatever. So if he's going to be kind of in the middle, just being difficult, Triantis does everything you want from a midfielder. And Dylan Levitt, was brilliant when he broke onto the scene at Dundee United a few years ago, and has maybe not fell off the radar, but not really hit the same heights at Hibs. But he has moments and whatever. These guys are all pretty well switched on, and I think they're going to have nice little traps set where they're going to be really happy for the likes of McGregor, maybe even Hitati, to drop into pockets and get the ball from the defence, and then look to kind of jump and close people out, turn the ball over quickly, and send people on the break in that sense. So I don't think we're going to see and feel Hibs like camping in or defending. And I do expect there to be room on the pitch to play. But I just don't think, especially in our own half, there's going to be much room for error. Just the way that Hibs like to kind of, it's almost like I always think some of these things is quite well described. And I don't follow MMA that closely, but in like that MMA kind of context of like jiu-jitsu and people like wrestling on the ground and stuff like that. But it's like them being ready for us to do a move, knowing you're probably going to do one of 3 moves, and 2 of them I've got a good counter for, and if you do the third one, then cross my fingers, I'll try my best to get out of it, kind of vibe. And I think that's what we'll kind of expect if they come out in this type of shape. Now, there's always a chance that somebody like the Hoylett or the Kucherev or whatever don't start, and then like another midfielder plays, and they do just try and suffocate the centre ground a little bit more. But I really remember like Triantis like galloping through the Celtic Park on a few turnovers. It wasn't Levitt, it was somebody like Campbell. Yeah, Joe Campbell or Joe Newell or somebody like that. They had in midfield last time doing something similar, and it did feel like equally we could get up and down the pitch as well, but it was just our kind of chance creation and chance conversion that maybe let us down. And their defenders, like this Iredale, did they get goal of the season? Was it, or like player of the month maybe or something? But all these guys, Rocky, this Lewis Miller is a tank as well. Good pace. Normally a left winger, but if he's playing in a back 3, he's a very hard guy to beat 1v1, I would suggest. So individually, they'll fancy their defenders 1v1. So it's going to be about quality coming out here, which is why maybe the Kenny, the Forest shouts, I do forget about quite quickly. Jordan Smith, I'm sure his first name is, but Smith, the goalkeeper, has got a new contract, very highly rated at Hibs. They're super happy with him. He's really confident in a good space. And we'll see if there's going to be a good goalkeeper performance in the SPFL, it's going to be against Celtic, like quite simply. So don't rule that out as well. So again, like in that context also, when we do think about McKeown's, Bernardo's and Engels's and whatever, there's maybe more of a case that you do want Bernardo actually in here to maybe just make sure, say, like the ball gets turned over against Triantis and all the rest of it. You've got extra support in there, because part of the feature, whether there's been Bernardo or no Bernardo, there's no 2 ways about it. The last 6 weeks, we've seen McGregor jump a lot more. McGregor has broke through the lines a lot more in the last like 3 weeks at least anyway. Maybe not 6 weeks. And he's had a better season overall. This isn't a recent phenomenon, obviously, but open play, I think we've all seen it. You guys that are all here would agree, I'm sure. There's been a bit more freedom for him to go break the lines and try and get the ball into the final third. And Hatate or Engels have been sitting, but it could just be McGregor's going to do that, because if they play 2 in midfield, there's going to be space for McGregor to do that. And Bernardo knows he's on the sweep. He's on the cover roll here. Let those guys go forward, cause mayhem, do something. And then if they turn the ball over, if Triantis gets the ball, you better be the first thing he sees, kind of vibes. So I think actually, but again, like I would just much rather it be like this type of shape from the outset, rather than let's get McGregor to come back to defence and play with the ball a bit. Let's get McGregor up here, doing what Engels does, doing what O'Reilly used to do, doing what Hatate does, however you want to think of it. Let's get McGregor actually strolling around the pitch, being his best self, get Bernardo in here, doing the job he was built for. When they beat us 2-1 in February, they got us offside a lot. Yeah, exactly. I don't think it's going to be a bank-in situation. Sometimes when we see these back threes, it's like, okay, well, off the ball, they're going to do this shit and go, back 5, and then the centre-backs sit in those pockets between the centre-backs to make little triangles. But, yeah, don't get me wrong, this will probably happen at some point in the match for like a minute or whatever, but it's not going to be Hibs' design, overall, of just totally restricting and then trying to spring out. They're much more kind of coy and get a lot of their players to try and cover passing lanes, kind of cover 2 men, the job and a half kind of philosophy is the word I'm looking for there. And then one of the few occasions the word philosophy is probably properly used and not overplayed. Ryan, good to see you, mate. Good to see you. It doesn't matter if you're late, you made it. Are you still doing the scouting missions, David67? Oh, what scouting missions? Oh, just like watching players and stuff. Let me know what you're talking about there. Interested in that chat. But yeah, and I think in a game like this, if you remember the February match, I couldn't remember the date, that's why I didn't cite it earlier. See what you can find out. I don't know if that's a joke or not. Despotov sounds like a made-up name, but Bulgarian names can sound like that, can't they? But in games like this, it's very much as the midfield. I remember Newell or Campbell, whoever it was, but their midfield partner with Triantis were like alongside Boyle. Boyle looked really handy without actually converting, if memory serves me right. Could easily be standout players for Hibs and a huge kind of headline maker on the match. But I think for us equally, it's going to be that same kind of thing of, probably not this defence. I don't think there's any room for that, to be honest with you. But if Bernardo got a goal or an assist or something like that from starting, I think he could easily be the guy that writes the headlines. Adam Ida and Daisen Maeda, if they score 2 goals or more, they're always liable to have like an exceptional match, play really well, maybe even make an assist or two, maybe even go that one step further and get the hat trick or whatever. But there will be a little bit of, there will be it will be a muted opportunity for that sort of thing because they're very likely to be in an early raft of 3 on, 3 off for the front line. So yeah, I'm very much looking forward to it. The good thing about Hibs and the current kind of guys that they're in is that, they're here to play football. And that's what we want to see. You want to go on a nice sunny day if the weather keeps up. You want to see a good football match. You want to see good goals. You want to see the win, obviously, but it's all about having, this is going to be a good one. Hibs have definitely been one of the toughest challenges we've had this season, obviously with the record, that goes without saying. But the title is coming home for this one. So I think if I was going to pick someone to have like the headline making performance, I don't want to just say man of the match because man of the match is not really what I mean when I say when we go through this on the channel, but like who is going to be the guy that writes the headlines, improves his reputation with the Celtic fans, etc. And I think this could be a good one for Ida, to be honest with you, because the thing about Ida is he's not really what he looks like he should be, as I think as we all know. And again, listening to Axom, maybe earlier, it was earlier today on the playback. You had Alan Morrison on, Paul John, and Kev Graham, the poet, joined them also. He was talking about how and I heard them talking about this on Cuddle Breakdown in the last week or two. But Ida, you don't want him for build-up play. You want Ida like running through a channel, 1v1, having to be strong with a man, but still running the channel, using the pace he has. He's not lightning quick, Ida, but he's not slow. I don't think anyone would call Ida slow. I think we're probably something we can say quite comfortably. No one's going to attack us. But he wants to hold people off. He wants to run the channel. He wants to take 1 or 2 touches and get the shot away, or try and set a tap in up for someone else. Obviously, he's quite capable and game for doing that, as we've seen before. And this kind of midfield back three, from Hibs, if there is space moving around the pitch, where they counter attack us, we turn the ball over quickly. And like if Engels is on the pitch, you could imagine the long diag coming. McGregor's got that in his game. Rio's got that in his game, so it's not totally taken out of the arsenal with no Engels, but it's kind of been his specialty recently, those kind of long range and slicing balls that just kill the back line that are recovering. But all the same, I think this could be a good one for Ida. I think he could be writing the headlines, but it feels like it's always set up for Daisen because he's always just going to score a goal, isn't he? You feel that. And if he's making assists and he's been a constant threat and doing stuff, like you just feel like he could be centre. All the goals could have Daisen involvement in them. And he's on track for winning all the awards and being the absolute hero of the season. So I'm between Ida and Daisen personally. Do I think we keep a clean sheet? If Sinisalo plays, I really want him to get another clean sheet. He's had a good little record so far. We've been asking for him to get high value clean sheets, and he's been getting them as well. Rating out of 100 very, very well for saves he's making, pass completion. And do you know, it's funny, right? Because Sinisalo, I just want to highlight this again for anyone watching the preview, but we've seen that, he's press resistant, which means when players go and try and press him, he doesn't really lose the ball or anything like that, right? But he loves waiting to the last second before passing it or clearing it. And it maybe looked like maybe the first time that we've seen it, he get caught mistiming that there. He does it every time. He definitely means it. He wants someone to bash him, so that, I don't know, but he loves sucking people all the way in before doing it. So again, I'd love to see another performance from him before the return of Schmeichel, and I'd love to see a clean sheet for him. But I don't think there's anything in the Hibs team that makes me think they will definitely score, other than their record and their form. Boyle is a very good forward in this league. Kuracevic is a big game player. Hoylett's a big game player. Their bench isn't too bad either. Triantis, of course, set pieces and whatnot, delivery. There's plenty of goal scorers in the team in some way, but even with this type of outlook, even if it was Schlupp for Taylor or any of the other permutations, at Celtic Park with the occasion and everything like that, if we get a goal or two early enough, I think we could do well enough to keep the clean sheet there. So I think we're going to win 2-0 or 2-1, but I'm going to go with 2-0. And especially if it is this type of team, I don't know if we score lots of goals, but we maybe have a good first half. So yeah, maybe we win the first half 1-0, That's what I'm thinking. And then with all the subs, let's imagine a substitute or two get involved in the action as well as, yeah. So I'm going to go with Celtic to win this like 2-0. I could maybe be pushed to 3-0 because of the weather and the occasion. But I think with changes, you lose a little bit of harmony, lose a little bit of synergy. Hibs are the opposite. They're not going to be changing. They're pushing for Europe. They're still like mad motivated for this. So maybe giving Celtic the clean sheets, maybe a bit optimistic on my part, but I'm going to stick to it all the same. And I'm going to say Celtic to win this 3-0. Bibby was good against us as well. You're right. Yes. And he made the video as well. I was very impressed with his performance against us. And I think he's getting some kind of wider appreciation and attention in recent weeks. Again, a very good player from the bench for them if he's not going to start. It's a guy playing for Pau. I love that. Left and right winger. Interested. The Greek League is such a funny one to watch because, or to check for stats and whatever, because it's a very weird level, number one. There's not that great coverage of it in terms of statistic outlets and whatever. And it's pretty bent, you know, like if you go onto YouTube and you put in like Olympiacos refereeing decisions, like they're worse than Rangers, like they are. And maybe some of them are a bit dated now. I don't know what they've done since VAR, but like Greece is, you know, and I think we all know there's been allegations and proven cases of dodgy stuff there anyway. 3-0 Ida Dublin, Maeda. Yeah, I think we all want Forest to score, don't we? I think we all want Forest to get his 16 goals in 16 seasons or something crazy like that. If we get a penalty, we're talking about Hatate and whatever. If we get a penalty, surely we're just giving it to Jimmy and saying, make history, pal. You know, go for it. Surely to God. Sunny Parkhead, can't wait. Yeah, it's going to be a good one for sure. Let me know, guys. This is where you leave your receipts on the internet. So if you're in the live chat, when the video ends, if you guys are watching it after we've been live, you'll see it already. But the comment section opens, and in the comment section on the Celtic Are Here channel is the number one place that Celtic fans all around the world love to leave their receipts of what's the score prediction, who's going to score first, your man of the match shout, all your kind of feelings and intuitions and hunches coming into the game this weekend, so that when it does unfold and you called it right, like some of the chat I've got with people that have put predictions in and stuff like that, and then they come back to cash their receipt in is brilliant. I love to see it, guys, and keep it up, of course. So if you're in the live chat, you need to wait for the show to end, and then the comment section opens up. Obviously, if you're watching this after we've been live, that'll be available to you now. But yeah, I think pretty much the only last thing I would go through with you today on the little preview is, as you guys will know, I spend most of my time doing this stuff centered around a little bit of fantasy football action. And this weekend I actually really struggled to do my Celtic teams and to actually pick Celtic players, because like I'm kind of half confident that it's not going to be as crazy as we think, because I've got memories of earlier this year under Rodgers maybe being a wee bit hyperbolic on how many changes there might be and being a wee bit super cautious, but I've managed to go for it quite strong. I think ultimately Dyson is going to play Sinisalo. I'm nervous on Schmeichel. I'm quite nervous on that, I can't lie. I managed to put James Rodriguez in the midfield for one team here just to make it a bit easier for me, because again, who knows who plays in midfield. But Ida and Dyson as a double pair up front felt good. And then I've got a full Celtic team here, which is just quite fun as well. Double midfield. Again, I just think Hatate, McGregor, Ralston, Ida and Maeda, I think those guys are really the safest in the team, but Ralston above all else, of course. And yeah, we've got some wacky and wonderful combinations. We've got Cuisance in Germany kicking off the now, some more Celtic stuff. And we've got Hajeti. Hajeti's in great form, by the way, for Basel, and they're playing a pretty important match. So we've got a wee Celtic fullback and then a wee Basel kind of play there. And I tried to cover the bases in case everyone plays. So wish me the best of luck with this fantasy football five-a-side stuff for cash, cards, and a bunch of other stuff in between. So Celtic do well. We're all happy with it. If you haven't done so already, please do hit subscribe for more content like this on screen now. If you're watching this after we've been live, it's some more stuff that we've made that YouTube thinks you might enjoy. For everyone that joined us live as well, thank you very much. Fist bumps to you all. Please do hit the like button to support the content and all the rest of it. Have a great weekend. If you're going to the match, I hope you have a great time. Hail, hail, and Mon the Hoops.